You let this artistic sort of extreme sort of like thing play out, and then magic comes from it somehow. It's hard to explain.
Welcome to Amusing Jews, where we celebrate Jewish contributors and contributions to American popular culture. I'm Jonathan Friedmann.
And I'm Joey Angelfield.
Producer and engineer Mike Tomren is working somewhere behind the scenes. Amusing Jews is a project of Adat Chaverim, Congregation for Humanistic Judaism, the Cool Shul Jewish Cultural Community, and Atheists United Studios. Hey, Joey. Everything I know I learned from cartoons. I don't mean this in the literal sense, of course, but in the cliched sense of learning the fundamentals of life. G.I. Joe taught me that knowing is half the battle. Transformers taught me that there's more than meets the eyes. Popeye taught me the virtues of canned spinach. More recently, everything I know about Norooz, the Persian New Year, I learned from a cartoon created by today's guest.
We're delighted to talk with Dustin Ellis, an animation writer and producer whose career began at Warner Brothers Animation, Nickelodeon Animation Studios, and Universal Cartoons. He's best known for the holiday special Babak Friends, a First Norooz, and the PBS series Mixed Nutz. Dustin, welcome to Amusing Jews.
Hey, thanks for having me, you guys.
So, you've spent your career in animation. Were there any cartoons you saw growing up that inspired you to take this path?
I mean, I'm a child of the 70s, so really, I didn't have like VHS or DVD or streaming. Or, I couldn't watch my holiday specials in July. I grew up watching, Disney cartoons in theatrical reissues. I spent every Sunday night watching The Wonderful World of Disney with my family. My primary source of entertainment. I mean, every Saturday morning I would wake up, have my breakfast cereal, and watch cartoons while my parents slept in. So like cartoons were very important. I can't say there was any specific one cartoon that heavily influenced me, but definitely moments in cartoons, like, the moments that made me cry or that they scared the bejesus out of me or made me laugh my butt off. Like I think back to that pivotal moment in Dumbo, where Dumbo was at the cage trying to reach his mom, and the only connection they had was with her trunk rocking him as she sang a song, or like the moment when Maleficent turned into the dragon and it terrified me, or like just the laughs that I would get from watching the Warner Brothers shorts. I mean, this was my meat and potatoes growing up. And it heavily influenced me the way I wanted to tell my stories, because I saw how, all the great things about entertainment applied to animation, and it really impacted my childhood in that way.
Enjoying the show? Click like and subscribe.
You're reminding me, the first movie I remember seeing in a theater was the Care Bears movie, which nobody told me it was a horror movie. I don't know if you've seen that recently. It's like the scariest movie ever. And it totally scarred me. What I did was I looked in the other direction, away from the screen, to see where the projector was projecting, to make everything smaller. I could kind of see the image on the glass, and that helped me to kind of get through the movie. But it was a frightening experience for sure.
My first movie that I remember seeing was actually Walt Disney's Robin Hood.
Oh, I like that one. Kind of underrated.
Well, it actually heavily influenced the guy who did Zootopia. And when you watch Zootopia knowing that he was influenced by the Robin Hood, it kind of changes how you look at Zootopia.
So could you tell us a little bit about the roles and responsibilities of an animation writer and producer?
Well, so, what I was thinking about, like, just being a producer in general, and there's so many different kinds of producers, right? I mean, there's the ones who are, micromanage their teams. Then there's ones who just raise money. There's ones that, just, get the title and they kind of just show up with the Starbucks cup and watch over things for a few minutes and they leave. There's all the experience that I had that kind of defined how I wanted to do my work, my role as producer was was when I worked with Brad Bird, and I kind of realized that, the way him and his producer team worked, it is more like the coach of a football team. And that is, you're managing people who have like immense talent, and some of them are extremely humble and they just go about their work. And some of them, with, good reason, have a little bit more, confidence bordering on possibly arrogance about their work. But you're hiring them because of that amazing work that they do. So to manage these kind of people, it's a delicate balance of, keeping focused on the goal of making a good production. Also, ideally, like everyone channeling in and kind of like seeing what the vision of the project is, and then the project becomes king, as opposed to, your own interests, your own goals for the project. And I feel like, that's kind of what my main role is. I come up with the initial idea, and then I sign people up for their talent, but also to help me bring my vision to life.
So in terms of the writing, do you have a particular approach when you're thinking about lines or how this would look in animation as opposed to maybe live action? Is there a difference?
I've it's been a while since I've been in the live action game. So I definitely see things through an animation perspective. So my stories, when I see something that inspires me, I think of my spin on it. You know what I mean? And a lot of times that could be like the animated spin. Like one of the things I'm working on right now actually is my animated take on the boy and his dog story. So like I'll see something like a movie that whatever. I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but like I'll see something like boy and his dog type live action movie, Old Yeller or something, and I'll be like, what kind of take on this boy and his dog story can I tell, but with an animated focus?
Early in your career, you were a production assistant on the magnificent and well-loved 1999 animated film, The Iron Giant. Do you have any stories from that experience?
Oh, that was such an amazing experience, but I'm totally dating myself here, but that was like 25 years ago. And it's like, sometimes like I think back and I'm like, that was practically my college. I did go to film school, but I learned 10 times of what I learned in film school working as a PA on Iron Giant. It was such a phenomenal experience being around, like, again, these immensely talented people. He had this amazing blend of up and comers, young guys who just worshipped him, but then also like these like Disney veterans who had worked on movies from way back to Sleeping Beauty. He had a really nice mix. Again, going to the football analogy, he had his veterans, but he also had his like immensely talented, like, younger players. The thing that stood out to me as a fun little sort of a side story that also I think had it was a big lesson for me was, one of my dear friends who to this day is one of my best friends, Teddy Newton, was a development artist on that project. And Teddy went on to work with Pixar with Brad and designed the characters for Incredibles. He did that short that was Oscar nominated, Night and Day. I don't know if you guys saw that one. It was in front of Toy Story 3. He's like this amazing, wonderful, talented artist. And prior to working with Brad on Iron Giant, he had developed a little bit of a reputation at Disney because they would give him a sequence and he would just go crazy. Like, he would go way off script and create the most insane stuff that had no chance of actually getting into the movie. And a lot of times they're like, why are we paying this guy? Because they're like, the stuff is clearly not going to ever see the light of day. So, the main kid, Hogarth, was trying to like interact with the Iron Giant, and he had Kent sort of hot on his tail, suspecting something. So he kind of needed to lose Kent. So Teddy did the assignment was kind of like get Kent away, like get him somehow, get him on doing something else so Hogarth can interact with the giant. So Teddy came up with like way out of left field thing with like Gnome Mountain, where like he's convinced Kent that he was seeing gnomes everywhere. So like he would lift his like his gas tank lid, and there would be a little gnome, and you'd hear yodeling music, and everywhere he looked there was like gnomes. And so he said to get this, you have to stop this, you have to go to Gnome Mountain, to the top of Gnome Mountain, find a gnome and put salt on his tail. And Kent's like, wait, do gnomes have tails? You know, like, so he came up with this whole like crazy like thing, and everyone was laughing. But then there was those people who were like, you know, wait a minute, why are we paying him again? Like, what does Gnome Mountain have anything to do with Iron Giant? And Brad laughed it off, let Teddy do his thing, and let the creative process play out, because a lot of what was in those storyboards for Gnome Mountain ended up actually being in the actual final storyboards for Iron Giant, because, you know, you let this artistic sort of extreme sort of like thing play out, and then, you know, magic comes from it somehow. It's hard to explain, but so when I hired Teddy to work on our show we did, Mixed Nutz, he did a sequence for us, a song that was like what kids want to be when they grow up. And I remember like I told the producers who were working on it with me, I'm like, we got to hire this guy Teddy. He's a good friend of mine. He does amazing work. And so he turned in his storyboards, and they featured like this large-breasted blonde woman holding like kids and walking around and stuff. And the producers were like, what the heck is this? How are we going to use this? I'm like, let it play out. We're going to get we're going to keep. Let him do this. And sure enough, again, you know, he lets the creative process play itself out, and he ended up giving us the great storyboards for a song that, you know, you can watch on YouTube. Actually, it's like, it was all him. And you know, it came from this sort of experience I had on Iron Giant, letting the artistic vision play out.
So you wrote and directed Babak and Friends of First Norooz from 2005, about a young Iranian boy, Babak, who has grown up in the U.S. without any connection to the traditions of the Persian New Year, Nowruz, which coincides with the first day of spring. Through his relatives who immigrate from Iran and a dream journey to ancient Persia, Babak discovers that Nowruz is the best day of the year, which is something that my Iranian friends often tell me. The first Nowruz has been compared to a Charlie Brown Christmas. Is that intentional?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, again, you're talking about my influences growing up. You know, I grew up in a mixed family background, you know, with a mixed family background. My mom was an Iranian Muslim from like, you know, Tehran. My dad was a American Christian from the Midwest, you know, like as different as you can almost imagine two people being, but opposites attract. And, you know, I grew up celebrating both Christmas and Nowruz. And, you know, it always perturbed me that every, you know, holiday season, I would see like the Charlie Brown Christmas or the Charlie Brown Halloween or, you know, Charlie Brown Thanksgiving. Where was the Nowruz cartoon? So when I ended up marrying my wife, who, as you guys know, is Jewish, so we've got the whole collection going. I got, you know, mom, dad, and my wife, the three, you know, monotheistic religions represented. When my wife and I were like first married, you know, she said to me, I'd been working on productions mostly in a like it more in a production arm of things capacity. And she said, you know, your dream was to make your own thing. We don't have any kids. Why don't we sell our house and fund this dream project of yours to do a holiday special for the Iranian community? And so that's how that sort of came about, selling our house.
Well, I think it was worth it. It's really has been well received, and I know it got some pretty high profile viewings and that sort of thing.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. I mean, yeah. I mean, sometimes I wonder if we had kept that house, what kind of situation we've been in now. But I you know, hey, it was awesome because it put me on the map, you know, and it brought attention, you know, and it not only that, but it it's so awesome because, I'm hardly what you'd call a celebrity, but we were at a gathering of Iranians, and when the woman heard that I was the guy who did Babak and Friends, she brought her kids over because they grew up watching that. And these kids, it was so wonderful to see these kids say, "Oh my, you gave us what we had never had before," and it actually made it all worth it,
Jonathan and I both watched Babak and Friends recently, and one of the things that we both were appreciating about it was that there were actually Iranian people in it, and that the accents, seemed kind of authentic and not overplayed or, tokenized. Maybe just offering appreciation or, your feelings about that.
Well, there's actually two things that I really wanted to be authentic about, and one of them was the kids' voices. We're all kids. That was something I absolutely lifted from the Peanuts specials, because they used real kids. They didn't use like just women playing the role of kids' voices. And then the older characters, the adult characters from the show, we were just lucky that the Iranian community is relatively close knit and small, especially the entertainment. The Iranis in the entertainment field. So we were like, how lucky was I that I got, Pari Sayad, who's like a very famous Iranian actor. Same with Ali Portash, who's playing famous mostly in American productions as an Iranian actor. And then there was Shola Aghdashloo, who had recently, at the time we had her in our show, she had just come off Oscar-nominated performance for House of Sand and Fog. So like I couldn't have been luckier with that cast. It was very important, of course, that I had Iranian people do the voices of the Iranians, but I didn't expect to get that level of star talent, And then the Iranian singer Andy, who had also just recently he did a song with John Bon Jovi, actually, which is kind of funny. But he when he heard about the project, he donated a song to it.
Speaking of Peanuts, the character Babak returned in your animated series Mixed Nutz, which originally aired on PBS in 2008. The show has been described as international Peanuts and features friends from different backgrounds: Iranian, Indian, Austrian, Cuban, and Korean, living in a town called Diverse City. What inspired you to create Mixed Nutz?
Well, again, I come from a mixed background myself, and for a year right before the Iranian Revolution, we did live in Iran while my dad works in capacity with the Shah's government. I went to this school that was an international school where all my friends were from other countries, and then I moved from Iran after the revolution to Washington D.C., where we, I was in a extreme melting pot situation where most of the kids that went to school with me were, kids of diplomats and stuff. So it was a big experience being around kids from different cultures, and I kind of wanted to capture that magic in one of my own personal projects, which became Mixed Nutz.
Yeah, I will say that's a pretty clever title. If we're thinking about Peanuts, Mixed Nutz, I don't know if that was in your mind. It seems like it might have been. Okay.
Oh yeah, it was paying homage to my love of Charles Schulz.
So most of your work in animation is geared towards younger audiences and teaches about diversity, as we've been talking about. However, I saw on IMDb that you are also the production supervisor on a few episodes of TV 14 Fox animated sitcom The Great North about Beef Tobin, voiced by Nick Offerman, a single father living in Alaska with his 4 children. How'd you get that gig, and could you tell us a little bit about it?
That was the first time I worked on a primetime show. It was an interesting experience, and that's not usually in my wheelhouse, so because these are obviously more heavily scripted, and there's not as much freedom in the storyboard phase. The producer of that cartoon actually was a dear friend of mine who, again, a lot of my current friends have just been lifelong friends now from the animation industry. She was brought on board. She was one of the first outsiders brought onto the company that made it. Bento Box is the production company that made Great North. They also do why am I drawing a blank? Bob's Burgers. So they were bringing in some outsiders, and they brought her on. And so I think while there was this transition period of like going from where it's a pilot being made kind of to then sort of eventually becoming like a full episode commitment, a 4-series commitment, she brought me on board while they were in that transitional phase. So I got to just kind of work with the team, and it was really interesting because they do things like table reads, which we had never done it in any of the projects I'd worked on. Where all the cast is there and they're just like trying out the material, and they would invite friends and family to those recordings. So Offerman and like all those people were there for the recording of that. And it was awesome. I mean, it was a great experience to have. But I was just like a placeholder until they got their actual team for the rest of their series.
Do you have other projects in the works?
Yeah, I'm always like playing around with stuff, because inspiration comes from everywhere, and I like exercising my ideas and seeing if they go anywhere, and I share them with my fellow animation friends. So I've got a few. The ones I can tell you about, because they have been announced. One of them is a primetime series that we're developing with Maz Jobrani, the Iranian stand-up comic. I don't know if you've seen him. He has a lot of Netflix specials, and he's been in a lot of shows, done a lot of voiceover work. He was also Jafar in The Descendants. Great guy. Him and I are developing a show called LOL, Laugh on Roar, which is about a young Iranian comic who gets taken to an alien planet where they don't know what humor is, and he teaches them about humor. And then I've got another project I'm developing with same production team or same studio, Curiosity, and that project is a Hawaiian live action animation hybrid show that features a YouTube ukulele playing sensation in Hanukkah, who so it's about spreading aloha and spreading love, and she's the host of it, and it's really cute. We shot the pilot earlier this year in Hawaii, and the animation is being done in Australia.
You told me before that you were also working on something that's more fantasy based.
Yeah. So the only thing I can kind of tell you about is this one is one of my more ambitious projects, and my partner on that one currently has his own company that produces a lot of content on Crunchyroll, and there would be a video game tie-in, and it's not just a series. There's a lot more to it, but basically, I'd like to call it the Last Starfighter meets the concept of the Marvel multiverse, because these kids find out a video game they've been playing is a recruitment tool to go to the fantasy world where all fantasy inspiration comes from.
Well, Dustin, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, guys. This was a lot of fun.
And to our audience, now back to your regularly scheduled lives.
Amusing Jews is here to amuse you. If you like being amused, go ahead and click like and subscribe.